Now, activists have been lobbying President Cyril Ramaphosa and ministers to make the COVID-19 grant a permanent basic income grant. Shortly after the COVID-19 pandemic hit South Africa, the Social Relief of Distress grant, as it's called, of 350 rand was introduced to cushion the blow for the very poor. Anyone in South Africa who is unemployed and does not receive any other assistance from the state may apply for it. The eligibility was extended in July last year to include people receiving a child support grant. Various deadlines have been given and government withdrew the grant once, but it has been extended several times since then. A movement consisting of the Institute for Economic Justice, the Black Sash and Studies in Poverty and Inequality Institute, as well as others, met with the president last week and requested a permanent grant of at least 624 rand. To discuss, we're joined by the Director of Black Sash, Rachel Bukasa. Ms. Bukasa, thank you for being with us. How did the meeting go?
Thank you so much for having me. Well, the meeting went well. We had an opportunity to present to the president and the ministers that were present some of the proposals we had with regards to the basic income grant, as well as the proposal to extend the current COVID 350 grant. The meeting, we felt that government was receptive to what we were saying, and it was a positive meeting, essentially.
It does seem like a fait accompli, in fact, that a basic income grant is coming. We've seen extension after extension of the 350 rand, government acknowledging the need tacitly and sometimes explicitly, but I guess you want something finalized in law forever.
Yes, absolutely. I think what is happening right now in 2021, what we've seen is that there's definitely more discussion in that space. But I'm not sure we can say that we're at a space where it is essentially a fait accompli. We are, of course, from our side, we would like it to be, but I think one of the challenges here is to deal with the false binary that, well, if you go the social assistance route, then you're not focusing on jobs and stimulating the economy. And it's essentially moving away from that kind of narrative to seeing that social distress grant is something that can, in fact, stimulate a distressed economy. And so moving that needle, essentially, will move also the political will to get it done.
On this one, though, it's been interesting to me that major investors who often talk austerity are saying we need this, otherwise there's a huge political risk in South Africa, a risk of instability. So you have the people worried about money saying the exact same thing as lobby groups like yours, activists worried about the poor, and government seems to understand that it's a necessity.
Absolutely. I think what needs to be clear here is that the issue of a basic income grant is not a cost thing. It's essentially an investment. And if we don't act on it, if we don't go ahead with it, the cost to that is going to be so much more serious, particularly for the poorest of the poor. So at this stage, South Africa actually cannot afford not to go this route.
I guess you would say we can't afford to, but the pricing will be an issue, what we can afford. You're calling for 624 rand, which is heading to double what the grant is now, but that's where the poverty threshold is, right?
Yes, absolutely, because I think essentially one of the things we're wanting to do is ensuring that when we give this grant, it's something that someone can essentially do something with. It's at least at the poverty line. So what we proposed at the meeting was that because there are all these issues with certain economists feeling a particular way about affordability, and that is that the president puts together a presidential expert panel where we can look at the research, have academics as part of it, have economists, have all stakeholders as part of it, and then we can see how we can make this work, because we've shown that actually it can be done.
So from what we've been reporting on, about 10 million South Africans have received the 350 rand, which gives us a sense of the scale of the problem. There are 10 million South Africans out there who without this would have absolutely no income. Somehow they survived before the grant was introduced. Just tell me what you think the situation would be in this country without the 350.
So actually, it's actually even worse, right? We have 10 million direct beneficiaries, but we have 34 million indirect and direct beneficiaries as a result of the grant. And so saying that, well, they've survived before this, well, that was in a space pre-pandemic when there was an ability to go into the informal economy, to try and hustle and do something for yourself and get things done. But when we had lockdown and everything shut down, essentially a majority of South Africans were essentially just left destitute. So yes, it's to say that perhaps before the grant they were, I wouldn't say fine at all, because clearly we are talking about dire straits of poverty. But I think now with the trouble the economy is in also, I think there's no way removing this grant is going to help us at all.
So National Treasury had some ideas last year. We don't have time to talk about that, but very, very quickly, did you receive any assurance that government is looking at this? Any sort of timeline from the president? Anything to give you a sense that it's coming and it's being treated with urgency?
I think as a result of the meeting, what I can definitely say for sure is that we did get an assurance that there would be further engagement of how we proceed with this. Government was not able to commit essentially with regards to timelines, with regards to if this is getting done and when, but essentially I think we're at a place where there's essentially a little bit more political will than there initially was. So there's a commitment for further engagement, but I think we were all on the same page that there's trouble if we don't pursue this.
All right, thank you very much. That was the Director of Black Sash, Rachel Bukasa.